The story begins on a routine flight from New York to Los Angeles. Among the passengers is Marcus, a successful black businessman known for his calm demeanor and wealth, although he rarely shares details about his personal life. Marcus sat in his seat near the middle of the plane, ready for the journey ahead. As pre-flight preparations continued, Marcus noticed one of the flight attendants, Sarah, moving down the aisle. Her smile seemed forced, and the way she interacted with passengers seemed unusual and a bit cold. This wasn't the first time he'd felt something like this after years of getting used to the subtle and sometimes overt racial biases that come with navigating the world as a leader. When Marcus politely asked for a glass of water, Sarah responded with obvious irritation, yelling at him to wait until she reached his row. Her tone was harsher than what Marcus had observed with the other passengers. Trying to brush it off, Marcus remained calm, even as Sarah's attitude towards him became increasingly hostile. It's a familiar racist situation where bystanders often don't protest. Marcus was surprised, but still calmly replied, "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to bother. I just wanted a glass of water." Sarah continued to return to her row, this time with a more aggressive tone, as she accused Marcus and pointed out how much he had bothered her before, her voice getting louder and louder, attracting the attention of the other passengers. Sarah's frustration exploded, and in a moment of impulsivity, she raised her hand to slap Marcus in front of the stunned passengers. The entire cabin was silent, and all eyes turned to Marcus. Instead of reacting in anger, he regained his composure and noticed something familiar about Sarah, a distinctive tattoo that reminded him of his friend and colleague, Lisa, who shared the same last name. Could Sarah be Lisa's sister? Marcus decides to face her with compassion, turning a moment of hostility into a moment of understanding and reflection, leaving a strong impression on everyone present. Standing up from his chair, he calmly walked down the aisle toward her, choosing the path of understanding instead of prejudice and revenge. When he approached, he called her by name. His tone was steady but firm. "Sarah," he began, "I recognize the tattoo on your arm. I think you might know someone very important to me. Lisa Smith. She's your sister, right?" Sarah's face turned from hostility to shock as she processed his words, the gravity of her actions suddenly becoming clear. This realization turns the tension in the cabin into an atmosphere of reflection, as Marcus's unexpected approach becomes a lesson in empathy and second chances. Marcus stood before Sarah, his expression calm but serious, suppressing the pain and disappointment he felt after her shocking behavior. He chose his words carefully, hoping to convey the importance of this moment not only for himself, but for everyone watching. "Sarah, he began, looking her straight in the eye. "I don't know if you know, but your sister, Lisa, works with me. She has worked for my company for many years, and she is not only one of my most trusted employees, but also a dear friend. Lisa is dedicated to promoting empathy, diversity, and respect for everyone, no matter who they are or where they come from. She has fought tirelessly to create a workplace where everyone feels they belong, and here I am today, facing this level of disrespect from her own family." Sarah's face changed as she heard his words. The color drained from her cheeks, her face turned pale. Her earlier anger and frustration were replaced by a growing realization, and her hard, indifferent expression softened. The entire cabin became silent. Passengers no longer just watched, but also listened carefully to every word Marcus said. His voice was flat, filled with frustration but with an underlying sense of purpose. "You see," Marcus continued, his tone firm but without malice, "racism doesn't just affect the people you target, it affects everyone. It shapes how we see the world, how we interact, and how we treat each other. When someone is prejudiced, it not only affects their victims, but also those who care about them, those who admire them, or those who share their lives. If Lisa were here today, she would be devastated by the way you treated me." Marcus paused for a moment, letting his words sink in. Sarah looked down, clearly uncomfortable and struggling with the weight of her actions. Passengers also felt the weight of his message. Many people became emotional, reflecting on how they may have witnessed or overlooked similar situations in their lives. Some exchanged glances, while others looked down, lost in thought. "Sarai," Marcus said, "I'm not here to humiliate you, nor do I expect an apology. But I need you to understand that your behavior today was not just an isolated incident. It's part of a much larger problem that many people like her sister, are working to overcome. This moment is not just for us, but for everyone on this planet, everyone who has been a victim of prejudice, and everyone who has stood by and let it happen." As his words echoed throughout the plane's cabin, the silence deepened. Passengers sat silently, their faces somber, each contemplating the broader impact of discrimination. Some people seemed to recognize the force of Marcus's response, witnessing his quiet strength in the face of Sarah's earlier aggression. Marcus's words turned the initial tension into a powerful moment of awareness, forcing everyone to consider their own role in cultivating or ignoring such behavior. Finally, Sarah looked up, her eyes filled with regret and humility. The hostility she had shown had dissipated, replaced by an understanding of the pain and disrespect she had caused not only to Marcus, but also to her sister and to the values her family held. "Have tried to promote it. Marcus, I didn't realize," she stammered, her voice barely above a whisper, choked with regret. Marcus nodded, admitting her mistake. "That's the problem, Sarah. A lot of people don't realize it. And it's time for a change. I don't need you to apologize to me. I need you to learn from this, to see people differently, and to understand the importance of treating people with dignity and respect." Having finished speaking, Marcus stepped back, letting Sarah ponder his words. The weight of that moment remained in the air, touching everyone in the cabin. The lesson he shared was not just for Sarah. It was for everyone who witnessed the exchange, a reminder of the importance of empathy, humility, and courage to rise above stereotypes. Her opinion. Sarah, who had been defiant and disdainful, now stood with her head slightly bowed, her face flushed with regret. Her previous hostility was gone, replaced by the weight of her actions and the powerful truth that Marcus had exposed. Taking a deep breath, Marcus reached out to Sarah. This gesture is simple yet profound, offering her a chance at redemption, an invitation to admit her mistakes and move forward with understanding. "Sarah," he said softly, "it's never too late to change. This moment can be the beginning of something better if you are willing to learn and grow from it." Sarah stared at his offered hand, her eyes filled with regret and humility. Everyone around them held their breath, feeling the seriousness of this moment. Sarah slowly reached out, placing her hand in his. At first, she was a little hesitant, but when she saw Marcus's eyes, her grip tightened, regret clearly showing on her face. She was fully aware of the gift he was giving her, a chance to make things right, not only for him, but also for herself and all those who fight prejudice. I'm sorry, she whispered, her voice barely audible but filled with emotion. It was a simple statement, but it carried a depth that only those who witnessed the exchange could fully understand. Tears welled up in her eyes as she held Marcus's hand, knowing that this moment would last forever after the flight. She had been given a favor she did not deserve, and that realization dealt her a blow she did not expect. The passengers, watching the whole scene unfold, began to clap slowly. The applause was more than just support for Marcus. It was also a recognition of his courage, strength, and choice to forgive rather than hold resentment. The applause grew louder, echoing throughout the cabin, a powerful tribute to the message Marcus conveyed about empathy, growth, and the possibility of change. As applause filled the air, Marcus let go of Sarah's hand, nodding at her with a gentle smile. He returned to his seat, the tension that had previously filled the cabin now replaced by a feeling of closeness, friendliness, and contemplation. The passengers exchanged glances, some with teary eyes, others simply amazed at the courage and dignity they had just witnessed. Sarah stood alone for a moment, watching Marcus return to his seat. The sound of applause continued to ring in her ears, but more than that, his words echoed in her heart. She realized that this incident, as painful as it was, opened her eyes to prejudices she had never faced before. Now she has a choice. Let this be a fleeting moment of shame, or carry it forward as a catalyst for real change. When the plane landed, passengers disembarked with quiet reverence. Several people nodded to Marcus or said a few words of gratitude, acknowledging the grace he had shown during a trying moment. Sarah, standing at the cabin door, looked Marcus in the eyes as he walked out. Even though she didn't say a word, her expression conveyed deep appreciation and renewed awareness. As he entered the station, Marcus felt at peace. He knows that what happened is not just an isolated incident, but a powerful reminder of the strength found in forgiveness and the hope that even those mired in prejudice can see the path toward empathy and change.